I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, and this is Capitol Download. We're at the National Press Building with Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear, who's in town for the National Governors Association meetings. Thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You've done something pretty rare in a southern state, which is embrace Obamacare. And your Kentucky healthcare website generally has worked. Why has it worked when the federal website so famously did not?
Well, first of all, Susan, we've got some of the worst health statistics in the country. In order to really make a change, you had to have some kind of transformational tool, and the Affordable Care Act came along and gave me that tool. So we grabbed it, we ran with it. We've got 640,000 uninsured Kentuckians. We have so far since October 1st signed up over 244,000 people. I think we'll probably hit about 300,000 before March 31. What we did is we very quietly took all of the planning money that the federal government offered. We set our vendors down with our Medicaid people and the folks that run the public health system in Kentucky. We worked through what we needed to do. We made it simple. We didn't put a lot of bells and whistles on our website. We tested, and then we tested, and then we tested again to make sure that it was going to work, and then of course kept our fingers crossed when October 1 came, and it worked. It worked like a charm.
Now that seems very sensible. You set up a system, not a lot of bells and whistles, you tested it and tested it. Why didn't the federal government do that? In
their defense, they had a much bigger audience than we did. I don't think they expected so many states to refuse to do their own exchanges. But having said that, I mean, they messed up, and they know it, we know it. But the good thing about it is that obviously the president said, we're going to make it work, and it is working now.
Now, you're a Democrat, but your state has not been particularly friendly to President Obama. Perry Bacon of the Grio wrote the other day that in some counties in Kentucky, there are more people who have signed up for Obamacare than who voted for Barack Obama in 2012. But he said that this has not actually boosted the president's approval rating. Is that your view as well?
You're right. The president isn't very popular in Kentucky. I think the last poll out had his approval rating at 34%. But interestingly enough, he was ahead of Mitch McConnell, our senior senator, who was at 32%. So, that's going to be interesting this fall.
Why is President Obama not more popular in Kentucky?
The coal issue is a tough issue for the president in Kentucky, in that we've got a lot of people employed in the coal industry, and obviously with the climate change push and all of that, and it has had some effect on that part of the economy. You
called your program Connect, K-Y-N-E-C-T. Would it have been as successful, do you think, if it had Obama's name attached to it?
Well, there was a reason we called it Connect.
You do hear a lot of concern from Democrats who are running for office in red states that the Affordable Care Act is going to be a terrible issue for Democrats in November. Do you think it will be?
I really think that by next November, it'll either be basically a neutral issue that people aren't going to decide who they're going to vote for on the basis of, or really a positive issue. You watch it. In the end, it's going to be a plus instead of a minus.
A lot of Democrats think in the end it will be a plus, not a minus, but that there's not enough time by November to prove that to people who are so skeptical.
Let's face it, we've got the issue, so be aggressive, be on the offensive instead of the defensive, and get out and tell the story.
You've been a leader in the effort to change laws that deny felons the right to vote even after they've completed their sentences. Why has this been an important issue to you?
The more we can reintegrate those folks and make them productive citizens, the less they're going to go, commit another crime and go back in. It's going to save us money that we can then reinvest in a lot of other places in our economy.
The debate in Kentucky was endorsed the other day by Senator Rand Paul. He's a politician with whom you, I think, are often at odds. Why this agreement between you and Rand Paul?
He's an interesting guy. He, every once in a while, comes out from way over on the right side of the world and gets into the middle on something, and that may have something to do with his ambitions.
His presidential ambitions.
Sure. I think he's running around the country, hoping that maybe lightning will strike. And, as a Democrat, I guess I should hope that lightning strikes, because I don't think someone with his views can get elected.
You don't think he'd be a strong presidential candidate for the Republicans?
No, because he's too far on the fringe in so many things.
Now, speaking of politics, Bill Clinton heads to Kentucky Tuesday to campaign for Allison Lundergan Grimes for the Senate race against Mitch McConnell. Rand Paul has made some pretty fierce attacks on Bill Clinton lately, calling him a sexual predator. Has that hurt Bill Clinton's standing in Kentucky?
Not at all. Bill Clinton was a very successful president and carried Kentucky both times that he ran. And he's greatly admired there, as is his wife, Hillary, both when she was First Lady and then as a senator and then as Secretary of State. So, you know, if she ends up running for president, I think she'll have the possibility of carrying Kentucky in 2016. So having President Clinton come in there is a big plus for Allison Grimes, and I'm glad he's doing it, because we've got a real shot at winning that race in Kentucky. And you know, the reason that we do more than anything else is people are just sick and tired of all this obstructionism here in Washington, of the fact that the government can't function here. And Senator McConnell's been right in the middle of that cause of it not functioning, you know, for the last few years. That's not what people of Kentucky are looking for. And people of Kentucky are a pragmatic bunch. They're not rabid Democrats or Republicans a lot of times. They're just looking for somebody who's willing to sit down and work with people on both sides of the aisle to try to accomplish something. And I think they're looking for a fresh face. Your
second gubernatorial term will end at the end of 2015. Do you have any interest in running, say, for vice president in 2016?
No. I've seen some of those stories, and I don't think I'll have to worry about making that decision. I mean, there's hundreds of people out here that are qualified for that.
Governor, I'd have to say that was not exactly a Sherman-esque denial.
Well, I don't think anybody would say that if a presidential candidate called you up and said, Steve, I've got to have you here with me. I mean, my wife and I'd have to sit down and do some hard thinking about that, but that's not going to happen.
Governor Steve Beshear, thanks so much for joining us on Capitol Download.
You're welcome.